we're back. This is Steve Sanson and Stephen Jonas with another episode of Veterans in Politics. And this is going to be our first call-in show in a long time, probably a couple of years. We're going to have Brad Weitman. I hope Brad, did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yeah.
Weitman, he is the head honcho that's going to putting forth this class action lawsuit against 3M, and those are the hearing aid manufacturing company, and to get a lot of veterans that were in the military from 2003 to 2015 to join the class action lawsuit. Mr. Weitman, how you doing today, sir?
Good. How are you?
Beautiful, beautiful. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm a healthcare professional and specialize in the behavioral health side of things, and done some lobbying in the opioid crisis. And another passion of mine is military, and more importantly, kind of what happens to the military after they serve. Because, I'm from the healthcare side of things. They go off, you guys go off, you serve, and you come back, and it's not so good healthcare-wise. So I've always had an interest in that. I do outreach for attorneys on a particular number of cases that I've been passionate about or interested in. And what I was very interested in the 3M case is that, and I'm not speaking for 3M, I'm just speaking to what the courts have found in recent verdicts, that 3M knew that the earplugs were defective, had an idea what was going on, and continued selling them to the military. So, when you sign up to serve this country, you sign up for a number of things, and far worse than losing your hearing. But at the same time, there's a contract that when you serve this country, if you're given something, everybody has an honest effort to give you a working product. So you have people, and it doesn't matter whether you're in infantry or you're working on helicopters or aircraft carriers, there are loud noises occurring all over in that world. And when you have something in there that you think is working and it's not, there's a lack of trust there. So when 3M did that, the military initiated a lawsuit against them, and then that opened up the doors for individuals to sue 3M. So that's where we are.
Where are you calling from, Mr. Weitman?
Fort Lauderdale. So the lawsuit is out of Pensacola, Florida.
Okay.
But anybody in the nation can.
So any military veteran could apply for this class action lawsuit as long as they were in the military from 2003 to 2015, correct?
Actually, yes, but also it's not I'm glad you brought that up. It's not a class action. It's a mass tort. So class action is where, say there's $1 million, and I'm not an attorney, by the way. I should. None of this is legal advice. Don't hold me to any of this, but the rough idea of all this is, in a class action, if there's $1 million, the attorneys take their money. Let's say they take none for this instance, and there's 1 million people filing a lawsuit. Then you divide that million by 1 million, and everybody gets $1. And that's why you hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I want to get involved in this because I'm going to get $3.19." You see those kinds of laws. This is a mass tort. A mass tort is where you have litigation, you have a lawsuit going on, and everybody can file individually. But it is treated as one instance in a way at the same time. So, depending on the situation, everybody's settlement will vary. Some people might get denied. Some people might get a lot more than the next person. It really is all, they try to estimate justice in this instance on a case-by-case basis, based on a number of factors. So if you served in the military between 2003 and 2015, so if you were in 1999, you got out in 2000, you went back in 2001, you got out in 2004, then you were in there. If you went in 2013, you got out in 2017, then you're in that number. So if you served anywhere in that number and you have documented hearing loss or tinnitus, then you might be eligible for some compensation.
And how much does this compensation pay? What is the from start to finish? I mean, what do they start at, and what would they end at?
Well, the case hasn't ended yet, and I don't have a crystal ball. But what I can tell you is that there are a number of organizations, companies that they're estimating that the average settlement will be between $75,000 and $100,000. Is
that per veteran or
per qualified claim? Yes. So I just don't want to say every veteran's going to get $75,000 to $100,000. It's just everybody who files a claim, the ones that are approved, the companies out there that. They're like polling companies in a way. They keep a track on all this stuff. It's their business to kind of know how these cases will turn out. They're guessing between 75 and 100,000.
And what does a person have to do to be a part of this tort?
Well, if they feel like that they were, damaged, and they took me out their hearing loss or tinnitus, and they served in that time frame, then it takes about 10 to 20 minutes filling out a questionnaire, talking with, a paralegal or an attorney, and making sure that everything's in order, and then the attorneys kind of take over from there, and that's pretty much it. The beauty is that the military and the VA, they keep such great records, and there's one place to go for records in this case, that proving the damages is there's not a lot of working parts in this case. So if somebody feels like they're eligible, there's really not a whole lot they have to do.
So do you have to be a disabled veteran that have tinnitus as a disability or not?
Can you repeat that question?
Do you have to be a disabled veteran that has tinnitus as a disability or not to be?
Well, if you are disabled, okay, so I'm glad you brought that up. This is not income. So this is not going to affect your disability status. And if you are disabled, then the attorneys have told me that obviously there's some more grounds there for a strong case. There's a lot of documentation there, a lot of motion there. So if you are a disability, then you might want to take an even stronger look at this lawsuit. But if you're not on disability, even if you're on like a 0% rating, and the VA said that you have 0% rating, that's documented hearing loss or tinnitus. So it's not really, I guess it doesn't really a matter in this instance, but if you are on disability, then it's definitely something that you want to consider, as it would support the case against 3M.
So what happens if you were a veteran and you were in the military between 2003 2015, you have ringing in the ears, you have tinnitus, but you've never went to a military doctor, you never went to the VA, and you have no documentation of this, but you do have it. Then what?
So in that instance, a lot of people think or don't think that they have been diagnosed, or that they have documentation. And if you're unsure, it's definitely worth 10 to 15 minutes to have a case review. I'll give you an example. A lot of times people think, well, I never was diagnosed. But who really pays attention when they're in the military and they have those audiology checks? Or, if somebody is on disability, for example, then that points to them being diagnosed sometime in the past. So I think a good starting point is if you have hearing loss or tinnitus, it might be worth 5-10 minutes of your time to talk to a paralegal or an attorney and figure that out. But to answer your question, if you don't have any documentation, which I don't see often because the military and the VA, they keep great records and people typically go to the doctor and that stuff. If you don't have any documentation, then yeah, it would be a very hard case to prove. But that's the beauty of this case. There's nothing beautiful about what happened, but the beauty of this case is everybody went to the military doctors, everybody went to the VA, and the documentation is there. So all of that work is done from a legal standpoint, and we just have to gather it up, review it, and put it into the claim when we look it over to submit.
So what happens if you didn't? Is our mic still hot? What happens if you didn't serve in combat, but you went to the rifle range, maybe you were on the flight line, or maybe you did stuff with EOD, but you're suffering from some type of hearing loss? Does it matter being in combat or not?
No, my father-in-law flew Black Hawk helicopters, and he can't hear at all. If you were working in a factory, or you were working around generators, or you're working around aircraft, or and these loud noises that you're exposed to for long periods of time can be more damaging than gunshots in some instances, because it is a constant loud noise. So no, if you it does not matter.
Okay. Is there anything that we missed that we need to let people know about so they could have a clear understanding of what this tort is about?
Sure. So what happened is that the military sued 3M. This was years ago, and 3M settled. And then the attorneys that we work with filed a lawsuit against them. And now they're in the process of having bellwether trials. So a bellwether trial is a way to, because there are 300,000 people who have filed a claim, and my numbers might be off, but it's always growing. It's definitely up there. Because there are so many people to consider, it's impossible to go through and give everybody an individual settlement. So to start weeding that down, to start honing in on the number of what compensation will be, they have bellwether trials, and they select plaintiffs who are commensurate of that group. If you're in the high level of damages, or the medium level of damages, or the low level of damages, then you'll fit into that case or the next. So they've had 3 trials already, and they had a $7.1 million verdict for 3 service members in one trial. And then they had a second trial where the individual never saw combat, doesn't even remember using the earplugs, and 3M won that. And then they just wrapped up their last trial on not Friday, but not last Friday, but the Friday before that. And that was a $1.7 million verdict. So there's a lot of good evidence in this case. The verdicts have been out pretty high in this case, and it's definitely something to consider.
So it's better to apply than to not apply.
I would say that, yes, I would say it's worth 5 to 10 minutes to discuss it. Most people know. Most people know that I talk to. They know they have hearing loss, they have tinnitus, they're on disability, or they know it's documented. They're living with the symptoms now. So if you're hearing this message and this rings with you, then there's a good chance you have a claim. There's really not a lot of people most people know, and most people know they don't have a case.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure that we get everything out and everybody has a clear understanding of this whole thing. And Mr. Weitman, thank you so much for coming on the program and explaining that to us. Brad?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I appreciate your time, gentlemen, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Folks, that was Brad Weitman, and he's heading up the 3M. He calls it a tort, and for simplicity, we'll call it a class action lawsuit. But this is Steve Sanson and Stephen Jonas with Veterans in Politics. Until next time.